U.S. House Republicans have released a transcript of what lawmakers describe as a tense, closed-door interview with former FBI Director James Comey. Among other things, he was questioned about how he handled investigations involving President Trump. CNN's Laura Jarrett has the details.
In over 6 hours of testimony, the former FBI director went over familiar territory about the beginnings of the FBI's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, saying he'd bet his life the special counsel Robert Mueller is handling it the right way, and suggesting you'd have to almost fire everyone in the FBI and the Justice Department to derail the relevant investigations at this point. But Comey also fact-checked the president on this claim that he's somehow best friends with Robert Mueller, saying, quote, "I have never hugged or kissed the man, and quote, I admire the heck out of the man, but I don't know his phone number. I've never been to his house. I don't know his children's names." And while Comey's testimony did not shed new light about his views on whether the president obstructed justice in his firing last year, the testimony from another senior official at the FBI, former General Counsel James Baker, described how those at the highest level of the FBI were seriously concerned about Comey's firing. And finally, Comey was also asked to weigh in on Bill Barr, President Trump's pick for the next attorney general. And he said he thinks very highly of him, joking that, quote, "I probably just damned him by saying he's a friend of mine, but I respect him, and I think he's certainly fit to be attorney general." Laura Jarrett, CNN, Washington.
We are joined now by political analyst Peter Mathews, professor of political science at Cypress College. Peter, good to have you back on the show. Republicans wanted to grill Comey, and they've wanted to talk to him for a long time because they are convinced that the FBI was biased against Trump during and possibly after the presidential campaign. Did we find out anything to support that theory?
Well, certainly the way they went after Comey for not investigating Hillary's emails once again, they're harping on the same thing. And it's becoming old news and old hat. And the fact is that Comey warned us that we should not become numb to the rule of law principle and kind of overlook that. That's what this is all about. And the Republicans are still not accepting the fact that the investigation has to continue by Mr. Mueller, and that they're trying to use Comey as a foil to delegitimize Mr. Mueller himself and the investigation he's been conducting right now.
Yeah, and he's agreed to a second hearing. I believe that's December 17th. Same thing, yeah. Private setting, but he's then allowed to give a press conference, and they're allowed to publish the minutes of the verbatim of the meeting. I want to review a couple things with you. What do you think of John Kelly's impending departure?
Well, we thought maybe it'll be a couple years from now, but we knew that they didn't get along very well because, first of all, Mr. Kelly was brought in just a year and a half ago to make sure the White House, the West Wing, would be more organized, more methodical, that not everyone can just walk in the president's office whenever they wanted, when they wanted, but instead it would be all organized very well. But Mr. Trump's style is very different. He couldn't accept that. He's much more free-flowing and spontaneous. There was a clash already of personalities and organization and form. But also they disagreed on certain substantive matters as well. Don't forget that the Department of Homeland Security head was brought up there, by it was a mentor of Mr. Kelly's, and she's been attacked by Trump many times, Kirstjen Nielsen. So that's a lot of internal struggles going on there between the two. And I was not surprised what happened, actually.
But Kelly was once credited with bringing more order to the White House, right, after the ouster of Reince Priebus. But
yes, for a little while, yeah.
Does that mean that we should expect more disorder after he leaves?
We have the same president, don't we? So that's an interesting question. It's very possible that the disorder will continue, and it depends who takes his place. If this man comes in, a young man, the vice president's chief of staff comes in and takes over, if that works, he's more political. I think Mr. Trump wants to be sure that they're ready for the next election. He wants the White House chief of staff to be a political person, knows strategy, and knows how to win elections, and not just be an organizer like General Kelly was. That may be why he's trying to switch people right now.
All right, I want to pivot to the Russia investigation now and to the latest Mueller court filing. On Friday, Special Counsel Bob Mueller filed a court document in which he described that Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, had been contacted by a Russian national. This was back in November 2015, just before the campaign really heated up. And I want to read to you a part of that filing. Cohen received the contact information for and spoke with a Russian national who claimed to be a trusted person in Russia who could offer the Trump campaign, quote, political synergy on a government level. How do you read that?
Very indictable in the sense, if you look at this, that the co-conspiracy could have been occurring at the deepest levels here, because Cohen actually was conducting business and negotiating for Trump about the Trump Tower in Russia 6 months later than what he said he originally was doing. He lied actually to the investigators about that just to cover for Trump. And that's very, very egregious, and it can have tremendous implications right now. Especially if President Trump was about to win the nomination, he was doing all this business with Russia at the same time. Complete conflict of interest, very possibly, and that's what's going on right now. So I read it as very detrimental, and that I think Mr. Mueller is on to something really big right now.
And the contact was also saying it would help Mr. Trump's political campaign, but it could also help his business interests. Now, we have to point out, we'd be remiss if we didn't, that Michael Cohen didn't follow up on that offer of a contact with that Russian national. All right, Peter Mathews, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Cyril.